Hello, everybody. Welcome to Spiritual Sundays. I'm with Courses for Spirit. I'm Dr. Jeremy.
I'm Mason Christian.
Mike Warwick, hi.
Yeah. And so Mason and I are on an island called Gabriola, where there's a retreat center that I've been helping develop for some time now. And it's actually getting closer and closer to being able to host people, which is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, but it's great. All the infrastructure's in, and it's so wonderful to see things transform, and knowing that sometimes people might be overwhelmed when they think about how much might need to change. Just like within our own lives, we might not realize it. Might feel like we've got mountains to climb, and but just having a little bit of a vision or a goal, and continue bringing ourselves back to that, and being able to know that it might seem like something kind of really massive, but if we just do one thing and then one thing over time, eventually, we do climb that mountain step by step, or build a building or a space, path by path. Yeah, so it's possible. And here's, you can see in the background, that's part of it. Yeah. So welcome. This may be a good time to get a little bit comfortable for everybody. And so today we were having a little bit of a discussion on a few things, and part of it relates to creatures on Earth being able to go into a state of suspended animation. Most things in nature do that. Humans not so much anymore, but a bear, for example, goes into a form of hibernation, and that can be really restorative. And I think, Mike, you had a meditation, or you had an idea with regards to something similar to that, but was it resting in a place of love?
Yeah, yes. So a very simple but very powerful technique or practice, yeah, is just simply recognizing that because often often we're trying to get love to come into us from outside, and I certainly know that when I was a teenager, and when I was a young man, and into my 30s and into my 40s and into my 50s, really, I was sort of searching for something else. And I thought it was something I had to get to outside of myself. And really, all you really want is just that loving feeling that you would have experienced when you were younger, when you just felt love all around you and kind of flowing through you. So like when we're with a dog, for instance, if you're with an animal, and there's just that unconditional love backwards and forwards. You think the love's coming from the dog, but the dog, it's actually the love that's going from you to the dog that's being amplified backwards and forwards. But also it's the dog is transmitting a love frequency as well. But what we're experiencing is our own heart chakra opening. So sitting in a loving feeling just means to think about something that puts you into a loving feeling and realize that when you do that, that's a very, very profound practice. That's just that's not make believe or anything like that. It's for someone who's a seeker. There's a period of time where you're seeking outside of yourself, and then there's a period of time where there's the return, where you begin to realize that the love that you're looking for is actually generated within you. It is actually located inside of yourself. I'm pointing to my physical body, but I'm also talking about inside, like in the depths of who you really are. This idea that the divine is you and lives in you. So just by thinking of someone or something or an animal or a plant or a situation or a relationship, maybe with a grandparent, or that brings you into a loving feeling, and just sitting in that loving feeling and breathing brings you into the present moment.
Right. So we might find inspiration in the outside world of having that loving feeling. And because maybe people might not be able to access that sensation, or maybe their heart chakra has been damaged in a sense that they don't want to connect with that, or they don't feel that they can. And so by finding inspiration in the outside world, and then whatever that might be, then maybe accessing, if we're able to, accessing that in the inner world, wherever we get that inspiration or wherever we can make contact with that feeling, then bringing that forward into our internal environment. That's sort of what you're saying?
So it's recognizing, well, beginning to play with the, I mean, some people might not just be beginning to play with this idea. This could be a very common lived experience for somebody. They might have been doing this for a long time. But as a practice that we could do now is just connecting to a loving feeling with inside yourself, however you do that. So you might think about an animal that you really love, that you really care for. You might be thinking about a place that you really love, a person, a friendship, just anything that gets you into a loving feeling, because so much of what we do is to try and make it justifiable that we should allow ourselves to be in a loving feeling. I'll get this, I'll get that, I'll do this, I'll prove myself, I'll blah, 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 blah. You can get very performative. But actually all we really want to do is rest in a loving feeling. So we can, and you can build that in as a practice where you just kind of go straight to the thing that you want, which is to sit in loving. And if you do it with the people, then it's amplified. That's my experience of it. I don't know what you guys are thinking about that, or anybody who's listening, you know, or watch.
Yeah, for sure. I think I think it's like a skill to recognize those loving feelings in your life, Mike. And I think, but I think like some of the studies would show that like tuning into feelings of like love or gratitude or appreciation, like those type of feelings, those are releasing the good chemicals like within. So when I think of within, I also think physically, and it's like the oxytocin, the dopamine, the serotonin, nighttime, the melatonin, like those positive chemicals that can heal your body, that do the opposite of the negative chemicals like adrenaline. And then, you know, we're talking about like the theme of today's kind of thing. And so when you sit with those feelings, like maybe we'll try meditation today, your body begins to rest. Like you go into this parasympathetic state. So now you can rest and digest. When you're in the parasympathetic state, your body's like, okay, it's safe to rest. It's safe to feel good. It's safe to feel love. And another thing that I was thinking about when you were talking, Mike, and when you were talking too, Jeremy, is sometimes it's hard to collect positive feelings in our life. Like sometimes someone's life is so busy and there's not a lot of loving appreciation in there. So if we, sometimes we do have to go outside first. And if we go out, and these are where some of the good deeds come in. If you do a good deed for somebody and you can give and you can thanklessly give and you can take appreciation in doing something for someone else, well, now you've like created goodness in the world, and now you've got something to a gateway to that feeling. Now you have that inside you and you can access that. So yeah, it's I like to sit and think of going into deep meditation, but we are here on this earth and we are interacting with it some way, somehow, at some point in life. So yeah, lots of thoughts on this stuff.
I love
But
it.
it feels good.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I could give an example that speaks to what you're saying. Is so this afternoon I've basically like done a deep clean of the house, know, and whilst also kind of recognize, doing some breathing practices. So, which is great. You can do a breathing practice, a meditation practice, and you can be clear. And then you're showing love to the love to your environment, love to your home, and you're kind of loving the home. And then what I realized was that my mother's energy was very, very present. There's this beautiful divine mother kind of energy. about it all. And then I felt this wonderful sense of achievement because I actually like really cared for the house, and it was like the energy is really nice in there, and it feels really good to be in there, you know. And that's bringing yourself into a loving feeling through, doing the housework. So you can, you can do that. You could be painting something, or you could be fixing your car, or you could be, whatever. It's the loving feeling that you're generating through your actions. I love what you're saying there about going and helping people and putting things into the world and creating something where you go, yeah, do you know what? I'm not such a bad person after all, am I? I actually did something kind of nice, because we're so hard on ourselves a lot of the time. In certain areas we're really hard on ourselves, and others completely blind to our own kind of like, stuff that we'd be nice to be aware of. But I think it's beautiful just to go and share and just come into this loving feeling, because this loving feeling is the thing that everybody's looking for. We are looking for that, It's been commercialized. It's been so, you'll get that loving feeling if you buy this toothpaste, because then your teeth will be white, and then when you smile, everybody will think you're wonderful. Suddenly your hair will be amazing as well. I don't know how that happens. And
like your hair, Mike. You've got the good hair, yeah, for sure, man. But
I don't mean that. I'm not going on about the hair again. No, it's
more the commercial side of things, right? Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, there's a company, for example, that has something that's called a Happy Meal, and so I'm not exactly sure what is happy about it, but we've been told that it's going to be happy, and there's been a lot of millions and millions of dollars of marketing in that. And in neuroscience, they had shown that basically by in monitoring the brain, that basically the happiness as people are about to bite into the Happy Meal, that there's all kinds of great rushes of feel goods happening within our chemistry, and then once the bite is taken, very quickly that goes away. So it's like this: we get this spike, and then it goes away. And yeah, so
the cool thing about what we're talking about is, like, if you sit in these feelings of these self-induced loving feelings, you get the good chemicals and they're slow to rise, but that means that they're slow to go down. So you can carry these good feelings with you like for a while. Whereas if you go and you get the Big Mac and it's a fast up feeling, well, that means it's a fast down feeling also. And when the Big Mac crash or the sugar crash like drops you, it drops you like below baseline, below where you were before, and making it like even harder to kind of come up on the next spin. Something else you were saying, Mike, about like everyone's hard on ourselves. Even that, I've been told by more than one therapist, like, oh, Mason, you're very hard on yourself. You're critical of yourself, not in the same way of others. And so it's been a common practice for me to practice self-compassion, like just speaking nice to myself, or just recognize when I'm like being hard on myself. So that's another doorway of like finding like appreciation and like doing something nice for someone else. It's like your higher self being kinder to like your physical body, this self here. And even if that's tough, even if you're sitting with yourself trying to show it, like always remember, like and negative thoughts come up, try to love that. Like love and hate hates love. So you can always fall on like self-compassion. Like whatever's coming up, try to give that love and see what that even feels like. Is it different than hard on yourself?
I noticed that in relationships as well, right? In various different forms of relationship, somebody trying to win or feel someone's love, right? And so in that way, then when we don't have that reciprocated feeling, then it can feel quite terrible. And often people will stay in relationships where there is that they're like, there's glimpses of that. There's this big love, and then it kind of disappears. And so people will stay in a relationship trying to win that love, or trying to help that love grow, and trying to help that, and which ultimately is then putting one's happiness in someone else's hands, so to speak. And often that doesn't work out very well. Sometimes it might, but in my experience, it's depending on the other person to bring that feeling in as well. And also, if we self-generate, it might also mean that we don't actually really need to be with that person. And we don't like, right? It's like when once we're in a stage where we might be self-satisfying, we might actually realize, hey, I have that loving feeling inside myself. So why am I doing all this other stuff with things? And so it's quite interesting. Once we can be within that place of love within ourselves, then then it changes often how we operate or how we perceive things as well. Which may or may not mean that we're together with that person or not, but at least we can see things from a different point of view.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
yeah.
one of the reasons why, and I think we should probably do the meditation quite soon, and one of the reasons
You want to do one?
well, I just want to share this thing that came through, just and then maybe go into, maybe I can lead us into a meditation. It's like, when a very sweet soul comes to earth and then encounters the drama that's always present around human beings, and the dramas that are really impactful dramas that are present around human beings who love each other and are taking responsibility for this little sweet soul that comes in without really being equipped to do that. They can do it, but that sweet soul begins to kind of go, oh, something's not right here, something's wrong, and it doesn't really quite work. And the sweet soul will go, think it's got something to do with them, and they'll start to, so they'll end up building up this self-image where they're taking all this responsibility for things they don't have responsibility for, and they'll be really hard on themselves. A less sweet soul will maybe start to like blame other people, and a really, really pretty tough and not very nice soul will turn into somebody who wreaks revenge on the world, So it's good to know that if you're hard on yourself, it's because you're a sweet soul. You came in as a sweet soul, and it's difficult here. For the sweet souls, it's very difficult here. So for all the sweet souls, let's just do this, and then that's quite nice because that directs the energy in. And just breathe in, just breathe out. And no techniques. This is just for all the sweet souls who find this. Yeah, and you might have a bit of a cry or a laugh. That's all right. Just breathe in, breathe out, and then you're just gonna remember someone showed you love. You know who it is: grandma, grandpa, dog, cat, iguana, amarillo, a river, a stream, a rose bush. Come on, you know it. You've been loved by a blade of grass or a toy or a teddy bear or someone. Doesn't matter. Just breathe into it and just think about how sweet that soul was that you perceived in that thing, that person. And just that was a reflection of your own sweet soul, because you came in as a sweet soul. That's why you're so hard on yourself. Breathe, relax, it's okay. Okay, so now we've established that you are a sweet soul, and you can breathe and let any tension that comes up. It's all right. Dogs are barking here. They think somebody's at the door. They're not. Just breathe in. And if you want to, you can now think about that person or that animal and imagine them in your heart. Imagine love pouring out of you to them, just in gratitude, just thankfulness. Thank you. Thanks for being in my life. Thank you for that love that you gave me. And then you just give that back to them. Just imagine that love now is just filling, there's a warm feeling in your heart, spreading to back of your neck, top of your head, down the front of your face, into the muscles of your face, into your neck, any tension in your neck, shoulders, arms, down your back, into your legs, hips as well, into your feet, coming out your feet as well. That love's now filling you from your toes up your ankles, your calves, your thighs, your hips, tummy, back, up to between your shoulder blades, out through your arms to the tips of your fingers. Actually now shooting out the top of your head, all 360 degrees around you now. You've created your own little bubble, field of love, which you're actually sharing now, the entire entire world right now. All them dogs are barking in appreciation, probably. I don't know if you can hear the dogs here, they are barking. And just sit in that field of love. And let the judgments come up. They're gonna come up. I have judgment coming up leading this meditation. And there's a field, there's a resonance, it's a field, it's an actual vibration, it's global. The planet's producing it as well. So you're just connecting to the planet. Breathing. But breathing in, breathing out. Any tension that comes up, any emotions, let them go, it's fine. Just passing through there. And when you're ready, you can just stay in this field of love. We're not going to leave it. We're just going to stay in it. But we'll just have our eyes open. And when you're ready, it's not like you're coming back. 'Cause you didn't go anywhere. You're just breathing now. There he is. He's pumping out a field of love. General. And then you just live from that place. And then when you come out of it, you just bring yourself back into it as best you can with any of the practices that you can learn.
And bringing in a sense of rest and a sense of being, in that moment or in the moment. And when it relates to like the cycles of like hibernation and going into states of suspended animation, I mean, it might be a little bit more advanced, but there's a state that's called, yeah.
Going suspended animation is pretty advanced.
There's something that's called samadhi, right? In yogic terms, and there are states. It's very well documented within the canons and within the Catholic Church as well. For example, part of a beautification process is basically where maybe a miracle happened, and then it gets investigated and verified whether it's a miracle or not. And there have been a lot of that's just to mention two kind of cultures, but in many cultures there have been stories of us as humans going into this state of hibernation, in a sense, surviving ice ages, surviving big cataclysmic changes, and most things on Earth do go into that sort of hibernation. Even a fly, for example, someone might notice, hey, there's when it starts getting warm out and all of a sudden these flies come out, like, where were they? But and if we study the biology, they'll often find a nice place that they will go, and that's not going to be, that'll be like moderately temperatured, and then that's it. Then everything goes to shutdown. Crocodiles, very well documented that they can go. I believe a crocodile can survive on a chicken, can last a year. Now that's from what I've heard through other biologists. And so, so their metabolism, eventually the metabolism slows down, breathing slows down, heart rate slows down into that point where everything is just quiet. And for us with busy-minded humans, maybe that's where having that time where maybe just peace or quiet, or maybe sitting in that space of like love or good emotion or good feeling for a time can be quite restful at that point. As Mason, as you were mentioning, the parasympathetic nervous system, and where everything just kind of settles.
Yeah.
And for our brains, like, to be entertained, it might be boring just kind of sitting there or sleeping or for a time, right? So, but if we're in that state of where we're bringing senses of bliss and the inner world stuff, it can be quite amazing.
Well, I guess, I mean, now that we're talking about it, I suppose what comes to my mind is just to let anybody who's not watching to know that if you wanted to learn how to do that, you can learn how to do that in a stillness with through the distance learning lessons of the Self-Realization Fellowship that's centered in California. They teach that. It's best, and you go to them and you learn from them. You know, they've been doing that since 1920.
Yeah, yeah, and that's a great way to learn that as well. There's several different ways, right? That, but really, for like let's say in the modern era, we might not be going into a meditation for 3 months or into that hibernation state for for years. But there are many stories of people that have basically just sat there and basically sat there for in the same position for years and years. There's quite a few stories in many different cultures, which is quite interesting. And in the indigenous people of Australia have some very interesting stories of that as well, of the time when the earth had this basically where the magnetic poles flipped. And at that time, there were big floods and the weather was very odd. And anyways, but they have stories where they managed to, where they were in this time where they could go into a kind of dream time. And in this dream time, you can be there for as long as you need to be. And that is one thing that helped them go through that change of, when the earth was wobbling around for a bit, or the magnetic field was.
Okay, well, 'cause you're working on a dream yoga course, aren't you?
Yeah, I've been writing a book for quite a few years, and so I'm doing the final edit on a book that's about dream yoga and lucid dreaming, and helping people understand in a nice, entertaining way of some of the history, because lucid dreaming is a fairly modern coined term, right? It wasn't called that before the modern era. So, there's so many different kinds of references, and so trying to bringing them together in a short and entertaining way has been a lot of fun. Trying to doing the edit is almost as much as writing it, and there's some safety things too. And with that, there will also be a course that will come out as well if people want to actually discuss it and go through practicing different techniques together. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
What
Really
would,
excited.
I mean, I don't know. I think it'd be lovely to have an experience of maybe like, this helping us to become still inside. I don't know. Could you be able to talk us through something maybe that's from the book or from the course that helps us to come into that inner stillness as an experiential thing for everybody now?
Maybe we will at another time in another Sunday. So for now, because I believe that Mason also has a really nice meditation that's it's all going to be similar, right? So that coming into this place that we choose to, and doing it in a natural way, because often people will in modern era, there's a lot of chemicals being used, pharmaceutical. I'm not making a judgment on them or not on them. Sometimes people really need them, and I believe all medicine is good medicine when used appropriately. But I have noticed a trend over the last like 15 years. Well, since Prozac kind of came out, it's like the marketing changed, and then there's a lot of people on a lot of medication right now, and which is important for some people, right? But isn't it interesting how we can, in our own way, also be able to have a great effect, which is considered to be complementary. So if we can do things that are like complementary medicine, it's not a either or. Like alternative medicine is always like it's this way, or we love it or we hate it. This big attraction or repulsion. Whereas complementary, as a way of looking at it, is this might also help. And when we do enough complementary things, then maybe there's a chance that we may or may not need the medication. But that's just the side effect is feeling good, or whatever we're trying to feel. So yeah, and so by just taking moments where we can rest, like when you did the guided meditation and being able to be in that field, the more we can stay in that, the longer it travels with us.
Yeah.
In fact, Tibetan Buddhists have a funny way of describing, samadhi, or and basically a state of bliss, and they call it dharmakaya. So it's like a moment of like absolute quiet and clarity in the brain. And they said the shortest one is when we sneeze. So and this is in the Mahayana tradition, anyways, which means the big wheel. And so when we sneeze, that's like for that split second, we have what's considered to be like no mind or no thought. The second one is often with a big sense of awe, which can come through something like orgasm, or when we see something or experience something that brings us right into that moment, right into that place, or where in that experience. And so that's a little bit longer. Of it doesn't quite last. So it might have echoes over time, but it lasts longer than a sneeze. The third one generally is relating to meditation or focus. And that one, as Mason had mentioned, it takes longer to actually come in. But then over time, that then persists, and that stays for a lot longer. And so that's part of where the prayer wheel comes in. The spinning of the wheel feels like you have to keep. I mean, that's one of the metaphors, right? There's many layers of metaphor of the prayer wheel where they spin it, but that's just like us, okay? Moving our energy, bringing our focus back in, and then eventually there's enough momentum that we don't have to spin it as much. Just every once in a while, take the time to focus, and then we're always in that constant state of love. And life happens, and we get the wheel gets knocked off the carriage, so to speak, which happens with everybody I know. It's happened, from time to time, where they're in that kind of nice, great, hummy, happy place, and then something happens where basically everything, all the house of cards falls apart, and then start spinning the wheel again and begin and grow, and then again back into that state of happiness again. So that also makes us more resilient as well. So, and to maybe appreciate when we are there. Sometimes people take things for granted, like feeling good, and then when we don't feel good, it's like, oh geez, wow, okay, have developed compassion for oneself and others.
It's kind of like a meta thankfulness, to be thankful for being thankful, or happy for joyous for being joyous, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's great. So that, to my mind, Mason, you're going to lead us into something that's helping us to. It builds on what we talked about last week when we were talking about the subconscious mind, and we're using this tape loop thing. So these are practices that we can do. And the more that we do them, the more that they become subconscious practices. So the more they keep on repeating and they stay with you. And it's about using your own consciousness and your attention and your breath and relaxation in order to begin to affect your body chemistry. So you're coming into a more positive, healing body chemistry, rather than the one that we've kind of, there's a bit of a military industrial complex thing going on that comes through your screens as well, which is shocking everybody, constantly shocking everyone, shocking, frightening, undermining, shocking, bullying, actually. And so we're talking about how do we just kind of go, whoa, just a second, bloody hell, what the?
To recognize that is really powerful. Even television is generally, people don't really see on the screen. Maybe you might have see if somebody ever recorded with the old video recorders recorded a TV, and you'll actually see the strobe of the screen. Oh, there's a puppy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so often the television screen can bring people into a bit more of what's called an alpha state, which is sort of like a little bit towards like waking dream. And so that when we're in that kind of semi-trance state watching TV, and then the news pops up, and the fear or the horror, or buy my product, then it's like it's going, into that subconscious tape as well. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So Mason, would you like to help us put something nice in our subconscious wheelhouse?
Yeah. Hit the tape deck, eject tape, put a good one in. But chink, yeah, and that's cool. Visualization, right? Like sometimes it's good to visualize. Oh, I've been looking at a cell phone. The cell phone, the TV, the Netflix. It's designed to give you that fast dopamine hit, that fast up and fast down. That's why you can watch 8 episodes in a row, and the second you stop, you don't feel good anymore. But with this, maybe we'll feel a little bit better for longer. And yeah, something that you said when you were kind of guiding us there, Mike, you're like, no, just breathe it. No techniques or nothing like that. That was when I was able to like sink a layer into it, right? Like that relaxed, like your authentic vibe was coming through, like what you felt. So sometimes you never know what it is that's going to help you sink further in, but it's just about like patience and consistency and like sitting with this even for 5 minutes. So I know we've only got a couple minutes until it's, we're at the 40-minute mark, but let's just maybe go over for a moment or two.
A
I
little
think
bit
we've got.
more.
I
Yeah.
think, I think we're going. I think we're going at 45. I think we've got 7 minutes actually.
7. Okay,
Yeah.
great. All right. Well, that's enough room. We'll see what time we use or whatnot.
Yeah. We could go a little bit over maybe
Okay, let's.
if you're all okay with that, where it's a natural completion. And so maybe right now, maybe we could all sign off. And so when Mason finishes the meditation, does whatever closing and
It looks like the. Can you guys still hear me? Because the picture's frozen at my end. Oh, you've gone. Oh,
okay.
you're back. You're back.
Okay.
Hello there.
Okay. Good. I
Yeah.
knew. Okay, I felt to wait a moment. Okay.
Nice.
Okay. So if we have connection, like we were saying, we're just gonna sign off after this. So this will kind of close. You can drift to sleep after this. You can go to work. You can think. You can continue meditating. But okay. So just to take some of your loose and relaxed vibe that you brought earlier, Mike, because I'm still feeling that. Not to be too strict, not to think of this as a meditation, as a thing I'm doing. I don't need to know this new hobby, this thing, the rules of meditation. Think of this as like looking at yourself. So you're looking at yourself as you sit here. And there's much to observe, but we'll just start slow. So as you look at yourself, realizing your meditation is going to be uniquely different to anybody else's meditation. No matter what any instructor will say to you, maybe you want to follow a specific guided meditation, maybe you're meditating by yourself, but for these moments, let's just practice looking at yourself, which we'll call a meditation. And so practicing dropping into presence, that place that we've created, that place that we've become aware of. In practicing meditation before and continuing to practice again, there's this familiar calmness that you may or may not be aware of. You may be aware of, you may be experienced in meditation. These states that Jeremy had mentioned, where you might call it the present moment. And you're looking into this present moment to see what's there. And rather than rushing to stillness, you simply are noticing what is here, what is in your existence. Taking inventory, taking account of what's happening for you. Thoughts? What's your breathing doing? What's your heart rate doing? How comfortable are you while you're seated there, while you're laying down, however you're comfortable? And now just bringing some awareness to your breath as you're noticing what thoughts you have, as you're just noticing what is happening for you. And as you try to just notice everything, notice how you're between everything. Notice the space between thoughts. Notice the space between what you're thinking. Try to feel your body. Try to pay attention to what your body's doing. Like a body scan. Feel the sensation in your hands, in your posture. And try to visualize your body like relaxing. Try to visualize your shoulders dropping as you take a breath out into the nose and breath out, and visualize a softening. And you're still just noticing any sounds around you, anything in your external environment, anything in your internal environment. Try to find other places of your being that can be relaxed, and relax into those places. Try to visualize that no matter what happens through the rest of your day, this place, this feeling of calmness, this is existing. This is existing no matter what is happening in your day, no matter what thoughts you have, no matter if you have to stop and leave this place to go to work, to pay attention, you need to go to bed, your mind's going to move to the next thing. This place will exist ongoing, and it's always welcoming you back. If, however, you feel you don't now have the time to get here, but if you feel you can make the time to get here, it's always available to you. And sometimes it's a struggle to get here, but if you can make this a default, knowing you can always come back to this place, then you take it with you a little bit as you go forward. So to just close with a few more deep conscious breaths, telling yourself what you feel you need to say to yourself internally to rest in this place. And we'll just drift from there.
Rest well.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Much love, everybody.
Much love.
I think you're on mute, brother. You're on mute, Mike.
And off from streaming. There's the backyard. There's the view of the fruit trees. 15
Right. Everybody on